Hello everyone. Last week I cleaned this area out and we can see our lovely paving stones. And Lol is going to make me a chair so I can sit here. But I have been coming out here the last week since I did it, and I'm looking at all the trees. And you know, the trouble with trees, they just keep growing. So look at this little birch that's been in here, I think maybe 7 or 8 years, and its canopy is really large. The reason I'm talking about the problem with trees is because we were on a mission to plant lots of trees on our little plot here in Connemara, because so much of this area is treeless. So we thought we would do our bit, and I've planted trees pretty much surrounding the whole property along all the boundaries. And you can just have a look over here and see what's happening. I think I may have mentioned before that our ground here is so rocky that you have to get something in where you can get it in. So these trees have been just kind of popped in wherever I could find a space for them. And because we are constantly at the mercy of the southwest wind, which just hits us straight off the ocean, full of salt, never expected the trees to grow as high as they have grown. But just look at these oaks. They've only been in here for 3 to 4 years. And already, well, this one particularly is pushing about 12 to 15 feet, 12 feet maybe. And the others are and that one there is another one. Even a horse chestnut, which has been in a little longer, it's a bit slower, but it's so healthy. And honestly, so the trouble with trees is that they do grow, and they can grow very tall. So all along here, it looks like we've got it looks as if we've got a little forest of birch, but it's one birch, that's one tree, and it's just erupted in its canopy. It's massive. And we've got ash, we've got elder, we've got hazel trees, and look what's happened over here. I planted a sour cherry so that we'd have some fruit, and it was on the edge of a little area that had a couple of shrubs and a wild cherry at the other end. So I thought it balanced nicely. But this sour cherry has put up suckers which are now surrounding this whole area. And they're also getting pretty tall. And come over here. So down here, we planted these trees. Well, first of all, I put in a boundary of willow, but the ground further along was so wet that even the willow didn't survive. So I put alder in, and the alders, which go all the way along and all the way around to the far corner, are just amazing. Look at them. And it's not just the height, it's their spread as well. You know, we could be 6 to 8 feet back into the tree line. So the birch, the alders, there's some cherries, there's an ash tree here. They're just growing amazingly well. And I think it's partly because we feed them well and we put the sheep's fleece around them when they're first planted. So the problem is that they're getting so big, they're going to soon be overshadowing this pathway. And wait till you see down here. Here's a cherry, which is, I'm going to have to clear this further back. And then here is an alder, which again is doing really well. But I've got a beech and I've got an oak, and they're all going to spread into each other. So that means I'm going to have to think of new pathways around and down and into this garden. So all along here, you can see this is the very wet end. Since the alder went in, the willow has revived, and it's doing brilliantly as well, because it's not being drowned, but it's still got a nice wet area to stay. So for me then, the problem with the trees is that I didn't think that they would grow so well here in a salt-laden area with poor soil and lots of rocks everywhere. And it's just amazing. It just feels so good in the heart. And I just want to show you another place where we made a little woodland, because now we can't get into it. So let me show you this. Okay. Oh, on my way there, look at this. This is a little birch. It was one that was kind of left over, and I just didn't have any more space for it. So I put it here thinking it would be nice to look out of the windows and see a tree. But it's getting so tall that if I look out of this back kitchen window here, which I love to do, to look down the length of the garden and see all the colour, this is going to be pretty much all I'll see soon. So let me show you this before I make a point. So this is our secret woodland, and what we wanted to do here was leave a space for the land spirits, the elementals, and just to let the trees do what they want to do. Now, oh my God, this willow here was a cutting. It was a little twig that I got from one of my teachers. It's white willow, and it's a medicinal pain relieving herb. So that has gone in. In there, next to this ancient hawthorn, which is the mother tree of the garden, because it must be hundreds of years old, and it's been here long before we ever arrived. In there, I planted a couple of birch and an alder perhaps, and I don't even know if they're still in there now, because look, I can hardly get in. And this area, the steps all the way to the bottom, but I can't really use them because I can't get through. So we don't disturb this area because we've left it as to show our appreciation to all the land spirits. We've left this area wild for them. But we did have, at one point, we did have a kind of little circular area here where we could get in to have a look. So here you can see just how tall and majestic these trees are becoming, even though they're so young. Now, there has been one of these cynical sayings that there's no point in planting a tree because you'll never be able to sit under it and enjoy the shade. And in a more positive way, there's a similar saying that says, plant a tree knowing that your grandchildren will be able to sit underneath it and enjoy the shade. But look at this, I could sit under any one of these trees and enjoy the shade, because with a little bit of love and a little bit of feeding, they will grow. Even in our climate here with the sea and the ocean and the salt and the wind, they're still thriving. Plant them, plant as many as you want to, plant them as close as you can, because nature never leaves open ground. Whatever happens to the trees, they will push their way through and they will reach the sky and the sunlight. So plant as many as you can, and enjoy your own little woodland. Even if it's just at the back of your garden, you see, you get an illusion of space when you're in a little woodland. There's only maybe 20 or 30 trees here, and yet it feels so much larger a space because the eye is tricked into looking, you know, further down through the woods. So there's 1 or 2 trees I'm going to have to move because I planted an oak right next to the shed, and that will have to be taken up this winter and replanted as a bare root. So in here just behind me, I've got a couple of rowans, sycamores, holly, and more of this white willow that just seems to love it here. And what I would say to you is that, you know, we need more trees. If you look around the rest of Connemara, it's absolutely denuded. And so we need more trees to provide us with the oxygen that we need to sustain our lives. So it's a lovely way to make friends with trees as well, is to breathe with them. So if you go outside to a tree and you meditate, just breathe with it consciously, because every time you breathe out, you're feeding the tree. Every time you breathe in, the tree is helping you to stay alive. So it's a wonderful way, especially for children, to encourage them to really appreciate our trees. So I'm very, very happy with our garden and all the trees, because I think we've got nearly every imaginable type of indigenous tree. There's lots over there as well. Alders, rowans, oaks, hawthorns. All the trees here behind me were just put there because that was somewhere we could put them. There wasn't really any thought to it. But in here in the chicken run, because they are woodland creatures and they like to shelter in trees if there's any danger, there's a big alder here and there's a young oak behind. And then there's more outside their little perimeter. So it's just so lovely to see. And when you get young ones suddenly bursting up, you know, they're like children, they put on this growth spurt and suddenly there they are. It's great. So that's it. Just remember, if you do plant trees, don't go too close to the house, or you'll be like me, having to peep around the side of the tree to see anything of the garden. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it's given you some food for thought, and I'll see you next week. I hope you enjoyed today's film. If you did, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And have a look at the website danusirishherbgarden.com for more information about us and about the herbal medicine courses I offer and the Wise Woman Way training. And if you go to the shop, you can find the books, the Weed Handbooks, and other herbal goodies. And remember, we put a new film out every Sunday. So looking forward to seeing you next week.